The grand corporate building of Adams Enterprises stood tall amidst the hustle and bustle of the city, its sleek glass exterior reflecting the early morning sun. Inside, the hum of productivity filled the air. Employees in crisp suits and polished shoes moved swiftly through the hallways, eager to begin their workday. It was another ordinary morning for the vast empire built by the Adams family, an empire that had been carefully nurtured over decades. But today was far from ordinary. Today, Olivia Adams entered the building, but not as the CEO's daughter. Today, she was just a cleaner. Olivia had earned her master's degree abroad, spent years honing her skills, and was eager to step into a leadership role within the company. She had big plans, dreams of transforming the business, and a vision of where Adams Enterprises could go under her guidance. However, when she returned home, she was met with an unexpected challenge. Her father, Henry Adams, the CEO of the company, had a different vision for her future. Instead of handing her a position in the boardroom or office, he had a more profound lesson for her. "You need to see the company for what it truly is," her father had said when he called her into his office. "Not from the boardroom or through reports, but from the ground level where the real work happens. You need to understand how things operate from the bottom up. Only then will you know how to lead." Olivia had been taken aback at first, but she respected her father's wisdom. So she agreed. Her plan? To go undercover as a cleaner in the very company she would one day lead. No one knew who she was, and no one would be given the opportunity to recognize her as the CEO's daughter. It was time to see how the employees behaved when they thought no one important was watching. Little did Olivia know, what she would uncover during her time in the company would shake the very foundation of Adams Enterprises. In the first few days, Olivia blended into the background just as she had planned. She worked quietly, cleaning offices, mopping floors, and dusting shelves. The employees passed by her as though she didn't exist. Some offered polite nods, while others didn't even acknowledge her presence. For Olivia, it was a strange experience, one that made her question the invisible lines that separated people based on their positions. One employee in particular made his presence known. His name was Jacob, one of the senior employees who prided himself on his authority. Jacob wasn't just successful. He thrived on putting others down, constantly reminding everyone of how important he was. He had a reputation for being arrogant, and that reputation preceded him. Jacob didn't waste any time making Olivia's job difficult. He was used to ordering others around, and the sight of someone in a cleaner's uniform seemed like the perfect opportunity for him to flex his muscles. He began subtly tormenting Olivia, dropping trash and making sure she cleaned it up immediately. He would leave his coffee cup on the edge of the table, waiting for it to spill so he could command her to clean up the mess he had created. It was a game to Jacob, one he played with ease. Olivia didn't take the bait at first. She remained calm and focused, cleaning each mess as though it were her responsibility to make sure the office was spotless. But as the days passed, Jacob's behavior grew more intense. He took every opportunity to belittle her in front of the other employees, taunting her for being slow or careless. He even once remarked that she was too slow to last here. The more Olivia endured, the more her resolve strengthened. She reminded herself that she wasn't here to be a maid to Jacob. She was here to learn something much more important. It wasn't long before Jacob escalated his actions. One afternoon, after Olivia had finished cleaning the break room, Jacob deliberately knocked over his coffee, making sure it spilled onto his desk and floor. The dark liquid spread across the polished surface as Olivia stood nearby. "Oops, looks like I made a mess," Jacob said with a smirk, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Why don't you clean that up? And be quick about it. I have important work to do." Olivia felt her chest tighten. She could see the contempt in Jacob's eyes, and it was clear that this wasn't just about cleaning. He was trying to break her. But Olivia was determined not to let him win. She took a deep breath and silently walked over to the spill, her fingers gripping the cloth tightly as she started to wipe it away. Jacob, clearly amused by her reaction, leaned back in his chair, watching her closely. "You're slow. If you want to last here, you'd better be quicker." He chuckled under his breath, relishing the power he had over her. Olivia's face remained calm as she worked. She had a job to do, and that was all that mattered. But as she wiped the coffee stain from the desk, she couldn't help but wonder how many people like Jacob were in positions of power. How many employees were forced to endure this kind of treatment every day without anyone noticing. As Olivia worked, another senior employee, Michael, watched from the doorway. Unlike Jacob, Michael wasn't filled with arrogance or superiority. There was something else in his eyes, a discomfort, perhaps even regret. For a brief moment, their gazes met, and Olivia saw an unspoken apology in Michael's expression. It was clear that Michael was uncomfortable with Jacob's behavior, but he said nothing. He simply stood in silence, unsure of what to do. Olivia was grateful for the silent understanding, but she couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. Michael may have recognized the wrongs, but he wasn't ready to confront Jacob. That's when Olivia realized this wasn't just about the actions of one person. It was about the culture that had been allowed to fester within the company for far too long. The next few days passed and Jacob's harassment became routine. He would intentionally drop trash after Olivia cleaned, forcing her to redo her tasks. He humiliated her in front of other employees, often calling her out for the smallest mistakes, making her feel as if she wasn't even worthy of respect. But it wasn't until one fateful morning that Jacob took it too far. He asked Olivia to take a bag of his personal laundry and have it cleaned. She stared at the bag, her fingers trembling as she gripped the handle. "Take these to the laundry. I like my shirts crisp and clean. No stains," Jacob said, tossing the bag of clothes at her feet. Olivia blinked, shocked by the audacity. "I'm here to clean the office, not run personal errands," she responded firmly. Jacob's smirk widened. He leaned in closer, his tone dripping with disdain. "You're here to do whatever I tell you to do. Now take the bag and get moving before I remind you who's in charge here." The entire room fell silent. Every employee had stopped what they were doing, waiting to see how Olivia would respond. Jacob was used to control, to getting his way without question. But Olivia wasn't going to back down. Not this time. Olivia stood tall, squaring her shoulders. She could feel her heart pounding, but she remained steady. "That is not my job, sir." For a moment, Jacob's confidence faltered. He stared at Olivia as though he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then, without warning, he grabbed a cup of water from the table and poured it over her head. The shock of the cold water pouring down her face made Olivia flinch. Her uniform was soaked, her hair dripping, but she didn't flinch. Her dignity remained intact. Jacob stood there, grinning in triumph, his eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. "Next time, make sure the water you serve me is cold." "I don't drink warm water," he sneered. But as Jacob stood there, reveling in his victory, Michael spoke up. His voice was firm and unwavering. "That's enough, Jacob." Michael slammed his hand on the table. "You've crossed a line." Jacob's smile faded as he turned toward Michael. "Mind your own business, Michael." But Michael didn't back down. "This is wrong and you know it. You can't treat people like this." Jacob ignored him, but Michael didn't stop. He was finally standing up for what was right. The tension in the room was palpable, but Olivia remained calm. She calmly grabbed a cloth and began wiping the table, acting as though nothing had happened. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than anyone expected. The company was in the middle of an important meeting, and Jacob was confident it was the moment he had been waiting for. The CEO was retiring, and Jacob was certain he would be named the new leader of the company. But he had no idea what was coming. Mr. Adams stepped up to the front of the room, his presence commanding the attention of everyone present. "Thank you all for coming today," he began. "I have a very important announcement to make." Jacob stood at the back of the room, already preparing his victory speech in his mind. But before Mr. Adams could continue, Jacob interrupted. "Sir, why is she here?" He gestured toward Olivia, who was seated quietly in the corner. "This is a meeting for important people. We don't need the cleaning staff wasting our time." A hush fell over the room. Olivia could feel all eyes on her, but she remained still. She wasn't worried about Jacob's attempt to humiliate her. She knew what was coming next. Mr. Adams turned to Jacob, his expression stone cold. "Jacob, I personally invited her to this meeting." Jacob's smirk faltered. "But sir, she's just a—" "Enough, Jacob." Mr. Adams' voice was firm, cutting him off. "I've been preparing for a major change in this company. As many of you know, I will be retiring soon. And I've chosen my successor." The room erupted in whispers, everyone speculating who the new leader would be. Jacob stood taller, certain that this was his moment. Then Mr. Adams turned to Olivia. "My successor is Olivia Adams." The room fell silent. Gasps of disbelief echoed through the room. Jacob's world began to crumble around him. His smug smile disappeared as he stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had just happened. "No, that can't be," Jacob stammered. Mr. Adams' voice was unwavering. "Olivia has spent the last few weeks working undercover, learning the truth about this company. She's the one who truly understands its values and its people." Jacob's face turned bright red as his arrogance faded. "But I'm the one who's been loyal to this company. I deserve this position." His voice wavered as he pleaded. You've had your chance, Jacob. Now it's time for someone who understands the real value of this company." Mr. Adams dismissed him with a wave of his hand. Security escorted Jacob out of the room, his protests falling on deaf ears. As the door closed behind him, Olivia stood up, taking her place in front of the room. "From now on, this company will value everyone no matter their position. Every single employee has something valuable to offer. Together, we will build a future that's not just about power, but about respect." The employees erupted into applause, their respect for Olivia evident. And with that, Olivia Adams became the CEO. Not just because of her bloodline, but because she had earned it through hard work, resilience, and understanding.